everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. Today, we're talking about one movie on Hallmark Channel and one movie on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries from this last weekend. And one of them is super hyped. And it's going to be fun to talk about it and what we thought. And I'm with Rachel Wagner, and Thaddeaus is here.
Hi.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for coming. And then our friend Liz Johnson is here. We talked to her with the publish of her book this year in August. So that was really fun. Last Way Home?
The Last Way Home. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Good. I remembered. I enjoyed it very much. And I loved having you on. And you had said that you signed up for like Friendly or one of the apps because you wanted to make sure you caught all of the Hallmark Christmas movies every year. So
yes,
how do you
absolutely.
how do you think that the season has gone so far? We just crossed over the 20 movie mark for Hallmark.
Wow. Well, I'm super behind. I have hardly gotten to watch any yet. In fact, this was last night watching them was my first time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Sitting down and being like, okay, I'm gonna be all in the spirit. And it's been a busy season for me of travel. And so I was so excited to get to just sit down and really let the Christmas spirit kind of overflow. And in preparation for that, I went ice skating yesterday. Nice. And they were like playing Christmas carols. So I was like all in the mood and ready for like the Christmas spirit. It was great.
Good. Yeah. Well, you got some treats in front of you. I think it's been a very strong season. There's only a couple that I outright didn't like of those 20 movies. So that was pretty good. But Thaddeaus, what about you? How do you feel like the season's gone so far?
So I kind of agree with you. There have only been a couple that I really liked, but pretty much all the other ones I've enjoyed. There's maybe a couple, maybe one that I just didn't like at all. But other than that, I think it's been a pretty decent start so far.
Yeah, I would say there are only 3 that I wouldn't watch again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right.
3 out of 20, which is pretty good. It was pretty good season, I would say. And it's just, they've been experimenting, they've been trying things, and I appreciate that. And it's been fun. So including what we're going to talk about with three wise men and a baby. And this was definitely an experiment for them because, I mean, to not have female leads, to having to be a little more silly than something they've done in the past. All of that, I think it made it very unique Hallmark film. And I'm excited to talk about it with you all. And it was definitely something that got like huge hype. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was just I think they picked like the 3 guys that have like the most of a hive around them. Maybe Brennan Elliott would be like a 4th one. He has a pretty good following. Ryan Pavey, I think those would probably be the top 5.
Yeah, definitely.
You could also include Kevin McGarry, and we were talking about it that I think that the male stars on Hallmark have sort of more of a like high followings than the female stars even.
Except for your Lacey's and but other than that, so.
We've done these like voicemail greeting giveaways that we've done, and we definitely had like way more response from the guy stars than when we did the female stars, which it's so nice anybody do it, and I'm so grateful. But yeah, it was just something I noticed that there was a lot more response. Which is interesting because you think that it's the female leads, but I don't know if that necessarily is the case actually.
I don't know. I think that there's a lot of women who watch Hallmark, and obviously that's a core demographic, and so of course we love the guys. We love we love to see the love stories and love to see them and especially like these 3 guys that you mentioned, and 3 wise men, like they were super fun. And so I think we love the guys, and we love to sort of see them like in different scenarios and things. And so I mean, how fun to get a voicemail from one of those, to get an outgoing message from one of those.
Yes. And I'm not going to say that we were influential at all in this movie, because we probably weren't, but we did have Paul on very early on our podcast. He was the first celebrity we ever interviewed. And from the very beginning, back in 2017, we said that they should be using the guys more, and that we had this whole thing, this pitch that we talked about a lot at the beginning of the podcast about this our dream firehouse movie. And with all the guys in it. And I mean, just the fact that I mean, I'll ask Paul some eventually one of these days, but the fact that they had Andrew working in a firehouse, I was like, I wonder. But I think at least, like, I feel like we let them know that something like this is what we wanted. I maybe had like a tiny influence.
Take the credit. Okay.
Take the credit.
It was a good suggestion, and clearly they took it and ran with it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see when we talk to him, but I'd like to think that maybe it was a little bit. But yes, this movie was on the 19th on Hallmark Channel. It starred Paul Campbell, Andrew Walker, Tyler Hines, director Terry Ingram, and co-writer Paul Campbell and Kimberly Sested. So that's very exciting. And then the summary is: 3 brothers get the surprise of their lives when they are forced to work together to care for a baby over the holidays. As they slowly get the hang of things, they find themselves on unexpected journeys of self-discovery and begin to rebuild their relationships as brothers, as well as the damaged romantic and professional relationships in their respective lives, all while rediscovering their love of Christmas. So, Thaddeus, overall, what did you think about this movie?
All right, I'm gonna have to say this movie had a little bit of a hill to climb with me at first, because you start off with this baby. I mean, I know that firehouses are designated, safe havens that you can leave a baby at, but it's not how it would work. And so when the main aspect of like how the story gets set up doesn't really jive with what would happen in real life, it can be tough for me to get on board. But this movie won me over, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite of the year so far. So despite having that hill to climb, I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Well, and we'll talk more about it, but it'd be interesting to know why they went the route of it not being his baby. I mean, that they, because that would have made like some sense. It would have made more sense. So I'm not sure why. I mean, if they just can't have a character that has that sex outside of marriage, like in a Hallmark movie, like, so they couldn't make it his baby. I don't know, but that would have made sense if it had been an ex of his or something like that, and then she leaves the baby and he has to take care of it. Like, that would have made sense. But yeah, I agree, that is a little bit of a stumbling block that you have to kind of go with.
Then you just had, I was like, okay, let me go along for this ride. And of course, like, he wouldn't just keep the baby. You have to go through child services, and the woman wouldn't be able to just come back and be like, oh, I just wanted to leave him through Christmas. That's just not how it works.
Right.
But because of the rest of the movie was so strong, I was like, whatever. Well, I can go. I can take that leap with them.
Yeah. And I would definitely be very curious to ask them why they because that feels like a studio note that they made them change that to me, but who knows? But Liz, what do you?
They had to try really hard to explain why they weren't calling child services.
Yeah.
It was like, and they were like, it's really late. And I was like, no, child services is 24 hours. Like, they're always available to protect children. So yeah, I just felt like there was some suspension of disbelief there, but I totally agree with Thaddeus. Like, the rest of the movie made up for it.
Yeah. So you enjoyed it overall?
Overall, I really liked it. Yeah. I loved the brotherly relationship. I loved watching, and I loved how different the brothers were, and how their fathers leaving had really impacted them, and had really, yeah. So I felt like they were, they were such unique characters, and then for them to come together to to try and honor their mom was really special and so sweet. And so I really enjoyed that sort of family dynamic, even more than I expected to.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. I laughed a lot. I thought it was very endearing in many ways. And I was able to sort of excuse any of its flaws, because I think that in a comedy, when you make an outright comedy, that if you're laughing, that rules all. That,
Yes.
I mean, I've said it many times that I'm a fan of Talladega Nights, Ricky and Bobby, which is such a stupid movie, but I'm laughing the whole time. It's definitely not Hallmark approved, but I think it's really funny. And so I don't care that the plot is stupid and the characters are stupid and it's funny. So that rules all. And I was laughing quite a bit in this movie. So they did I think a good job. And it did have not only a hill to climb as far as the opening premise, but just the hype, that can it live up? Can it be as good as people want it to be? Yeah. They're expecting more than a Hallmark movie from this team up. And so that was kind of a challenge for it. But for me, it did. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I definitely I was just jotting a few notes as I was watching it, so I would hopefully remember. But I legitimately had several laugh out loud moments. Yeah. Like when they did their dance together the first time, I was rolling. I was like, this is ridiculous, and I am here for it.
Yeah. Yes. One of the things that I really appreciated about this movie is that I felt like all three brothers were pretty realistic to what single men in their 30s, never married, tend to be. Because in Hallmark movies, they tend to be these like kind of perfect guys, which I enjoy. Don't get me wrong. The hunks and you have the bad men of business, of course, but the hometown hunks who are like perfect and you're thinking, why has this person never been married? Why is this person is single? And with each of these three guys, they're obviously still hunks, of course, but you could see, okay, why these three guys had not been married. Why their flaws. They were flawed in interesting, realistic ways.
Yeah, I loved Paul Campbell's character having the social anxiety. Yes. It was like, oh, take this pill because I'm like freaking out and everything. I was like, really? Someone like, I mean, obviously there's definitely some characters that have been on these shows that seem like they had social anxiety, but to actually overt that what's going on with him was really interesting. I was surprised to see that he pulled it off very well.
Well, Tyler's character to be this video game guy living in the parents' basement, like we have never seen a character like that on Hallmark.
No. Or if they, or just, but definitely not a main character, maybe a side character.
Yeah. But he was, I think, my favorite of the brothers. Was Tyler's character, because I love the grumpy guy who really is kind, but he just is a little bit grumpy. And I loved him. I thought that he was such a great character, but yeah, so unique for Hallmark and super fun to sort of watch the progression and the story arc of his life and how it was changing. And I loved, the ex-girlfriend that was part of that. And just for me, like the moment when he gave her his mittens, when she was going to go ice skating. And I just was like, that was like the moment of like, this is like, he is truly a sweet spirit. Like he is a good guy. He just covers his pain with grumpiness. And so he just needs to work through the pain, and then the grumpiness will kind of be a little softer.
Yeah, I liked that too. It's there because it is Tyler, and he's such a likable actor.
Yes.
And so when you see it come out, it's like, oh, there he is. And he had a lot of the funny scenes. They gave him a lot of the comedy, which must have been really fun for him.
Yeah.
Because Andrew Walker's character was more sort of the straight man in the sense of traditional comedy, the one who's a little more serious, who reacts to things. And But he was great. All three were excellent, I thought. And I mean, I was joking on Twitter. I'm like, this woman should keep having children if she produces Walker and Tyler Hyde.
And did y'all realize that she was the mother in the original, like 3 Men and a Baby?
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. And that street would be like the most attractive street because you got Matt Hamilton on there as well.
And he was hilarious.
Really funny.
I super loved that, like, the antagonist, that the bad guy was not a woman, because all the time it's like, it's always the lady neighbor who's like grumpy and like, you haven't decorated your house or whatever.
Right.
And it was so nice for it to be sort of like this competitive, like male kind of ego thing. But it was, I loved him. I thought he was super fun.
Yeah. And I'd like him to get a lead. If anybody at Hallmark is listening, he deserves it. He's great.
Yeah.
It was fun because I went into this really not knowing who any of the female leads were, because they were the, more minor characters. So it was kind of fun watching and being like, ooh, Fiona Vroom's here. And then Allie Liebert. And
I really liked Vroom's character too. I thought that she was hilarious as well. And, I mean, that was a kind of a minor story element, but she actually made me laugh.
Which one? Fiona?
Fiona Vrooms, yes.
Yeah. She was very funny.
Yes.
When she comes over with that casserole.
Yes.
Casseroles are good for when you have babies. It was cute. It was really funny.
And I loved how she was awkward in a different way than Paul Campbell's character was awkward. Like, they were both awkward, but it was in a different way. And that just was, but then something about how the idea that opposites attract and they could come together and sort of help each other through that was, I thought, was fantastic.
Yeah.
I do wish, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say that they both had kind of the same like fear about people and like how to handle themselves in a situation. And but it's just they had opposite ways of managing the fear. He was kind of more avoidant and she was kind of overcompensated.
Yeah, that's true. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the good folks at Baker Publishing Group. Looking for the perfect gift for the romantic book lover in your life? These contemporary romance novels will woo their way into your hearts. First, we have To Win a Prince by Toni Shiloh. Fashion aficionado Iris Blakely dreams of using her talent to start a business to help citizens in impoverished areas. But when she discovers that Econ Dilo will be her business consultant, the battle between her desires and reality begins. Can she keep her heart and business intact despite the challenges she faces? Have to read to find out. Next up, All That It Takes by Nicole Deese. After moving cross-country with her son and accepting a filmmaker's mentorship, Val Locklear is caught between her insecurities and new possibilities. Miles Mackenzie returns home to find a new tenant is living upstairs, and he's been banished to a ministry on life support. As sparks fly, they discover that authentic love and sacrifice must go hand in hand. Pretty Little Spaces by Carmen Schober is sure to please. Georgina Havock's dream of a happily ever after falls apart when her boyfriend blindsides her with a pause. She is determined to pick up the pieces of her previously perfect life, but with the reappearance of her troubled twin sister, plus the presence of a ruggedly handsome ex-sniper, she's left facing not only her shattered future, but also her past. Looking for Leroy by Melody Carlson, Brianna Phillips is ready to give up on love, but when her fellow teacher invites her on a trip through Sonoma wine country, she's reminded of her first crush, whose family owned a vineyard there. Is there any chance she can find him? And one last chance for love? Next up, The Sweet Life by Suzanne Woods Fisher. Jilted by her fiance, Don Dixon, escapes to beautiful Cape Cod on a groomless honeymoon with her mother. But she didn't expect her mom to risk everything on a whim to move there permanently and buy a rundown ice cream shop in need of repair. Of course, in order to make their new life work, they'll also need her ex's help. Finally, The Last Way Home by Liz Johnson. A disgraced former NHL player and a local artist are thrown together when her pottery studio burns to the ground on the day he returns to Prince Edward Island. But as they work together to rebuild, their secrets will come out, putting even their hearts on the line. So head over to bakerbookhouse.com/featured/Hallmarkies to pick up one of these great books and use code Hallmarkies40 for 40% off these titles from November 14th to December 12th. That's bakerbookhouse.com/featured/Hallmarkies and use code Hallmarkies40 for 40% off. Yeah. I mean, I wish that we had 20 more minutes, that this would maybe in a feature length, because then we could have gone into those relationships a little bit more, had like 1 or 2 more scenes. But that's the constraints of the TV movie formula. But if this had been on Netflix and it could have been 20 minutes longer, that would have been nice.
Yeah, I definitely thought that the ending wrapped up really fast.
Yeah.
And I thought that I really would have liked to see Andrew Walker's character, just I know we got a hint at the end that he was dating the baby's mom, and but I wanted to see him sort of just to have a little bit more of that moment of that he didn't have to care for everybody else, that he could still be unselfish, but also just be settled in his life and enjoy a home, build a home and have a family, and that wasn't being selfish.
Yeah. That would have been nice to have a little bit more with that. And also just to kind of get some idea of why she would do this.
Yes.
Just have a little bit more time with that woman.
Yeah.
Because it is a crazy thing to do, to, just leave your baby with a total stranger.
Right.
And say, just watch him through Christmas and
Right. But there were some really funny little jokes in this movie. I just liked that when we get introduced to Tyler's character, his mom is FaceTiming him and she cannot figure it out. She's your cheek.
Yes.
And I think that was really funny.
Yeah. And that they were in the same house when she was doing that. That for me was the moment when he just walks upstairs, and I was not prepared for that.
Yeah.
And I was oh, that's excellent.
Yeah. I mean, I was really surprised. I'm wow, he's like a basement dweller.
Yes.
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 And I actually think, we got a little new hallmark when the baby comes, that everybody assumes that it was Andrew Walker's, character's baby. And and I was oh, what has he been doing? That everybody just assumes that this random baby dropping off some baby for him. Yeah. But that was.
But we should talk about his introduction to the movie, where we get a no shirt on Andrew Walker. That was pretty exciting.
Well, it was for me. I loved that opening scene, but I for multiple reasons. It was yes, oh, he looked great and he was so handsome, but he was so funny giving himself that pep talk in the mirror. And I just thought that is that's sort of a great comedy moment that's sort of juxtaposed with this oh, he's really attractive and handsome, but he's also he's got so much personality. I thought it was a great combination.
It was really good. A way to get me interested right out of the gate.
Yes.
Tell you that right now. And I wrote down, this is pretty realistic to what single guys would be like at their age, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to have you on, Thaddeaus. I definitely wanted to have a male perspective. So when they get the baby and they have to take care of the baby, and how did you feel about that? Do you feel as a guy, if you all of a sudden had to take care of a baby, unknown baby, do you feel obviously it's a comedy, so they're going to make it funny, but how did you feel about it and that sort of portrayal?
I think, especially guys that haven't really been around babies or like that, I think that's relatively realistic. They would have no clue. There's, they were talking about the different types of formulas, the different diapers. I mean, I think you would think that they do better than getting adult diapers for a baby. But Other than that, I mean, for me, it's a little different because I had much younger siblings. So even though I'm a single guy in my 30s, I had much younger siblings. I've been around babies. I helped take care of babies. Mm-hmm. I have nephews that I've been around. So I'm a little bit more comfortable with babies. I wouldn't have been as clueless as they were. But I think for a guy that just had never, that was somewhat realistic. I mean, a little exaggerated, but I could buy it, especially in this type of movie.
Well, and also the thing is that I don't think that single women in their 30s would necessarily do that much better.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I'm like you because I had younger siblings. My mom had baby when I was in high school, and then another when I was just about to start college. And so I did spend a lot of time as an adult, like being mini mom a little bit and taking care of kids. So I have some of that background, but I don't think that a lot of single women, career women, I mean, you look at a movie like Baby Boom or something like that, like how would you do? I don't know if we would do that much better.
No, probably not.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Liz?
Well, yeah, I have nieces and nephews. And so I spent a fair bit of time in my 20s, doing diapers and stuff like that. But yeah, when it comes to like formula and the different types of formula and what does the baby need and all of that goes right over my head. So I'm basically like, hand me the bottle and the formula and I can mix it and I know to test it on my wrist. And that's about the extent. I can change a diaper and that's gonna be about it. Yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot that single women, we would still struggle to, I think.
And the only thing with the adult diapers that made it like, I mean, it was a funny joke, but they're in an entirely different section of this store. Mm-hmm. That's the only part of it that's like, probably not. They probably wouldn't make that that mistake.
Yes.
It was still funny.
Yeah. I thought what was so cute was, and I wrote this down, was just the idea, like the things that babies make men do. Like when they were when they were doing the footprint ornament, and I just thought like babies can make men be mush too. Like we always think of like women being like, oh, and I have baby fever and I want babies. And there's a lot of women who do feel that way. There's some who don't, and that's cool too. But it just was like, it was such a reminder to me of watching like my brother and my brother-in-law when they both had kids, like that they just were like suddenly like their daddy. And it's like it's almost like a light flip switch. Like you don't expect it because they're these big guys and they're, and they're kind of, whatever. But then all of a sudden they have a baby and they're like, and they're talking baby talk and they're like, basically it's babies just turn everybody into jelly, which is super great. And I think was like such a win for this movie because like babies and dogs, it was golden. It was like, there was nothing that you could do to go wrong here.
Well, and I think a theme of this movie is just how the baby forces them all to be less selfish. And that is something true of anybody who has to take care of a child. It forces you to be less selfish.
True.
That's for sure. Yeah. And so I did appreciate that. And it wasn't like none of these men were portrayed as idiots. Like they weren't stupid. And sometimes you see that of like the kind of Home Improvement style of kind of portrayal where you've got the wife that's looking down like, oh, and then you have the incompetent husband / father type. And that was not in this movie. Like they were all I mean, the closest you get would be maybe Allie Liebert's character with Tyler's character but she had like legit reasons to be annoyed with him for what he did. And she came around for that and he learned and grew. So I know it just, none of them were portrayed as idiots.
Yeah. And I liked that they all had unique like superpowers, or skill sets. Like they each had something that they were really good at, which made them even more attractive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you agree, Thaddeaus?
I liked the differentiation between the characters, and I actually think that they did a good job of kind of, using like birth order type of like psychology to kind of
Mm-hmm.
expand the character. Andrew Walker's character, who
Yeah.
became like the responsible one that kind of had to pick up the slack and help out the mother for his younger siblings. You had Paul Campbell's character, who kind of got lost and kind of gave into like that anxiety and fear. And then you had Tyler Hines, who just kind of was a little selfish, trying to find his own way. And so I thought that was really interesting. And I think that they did a good job of kind of playing that in, but they didn't like overdo it. But
it was kind of funny that the mother's kind of bemoaning the fact that there's no Christmas decorations, the tree hasn't set up, and literally they've got all of the Hallmark Christmas decorations. I mean, it makes no sense that she wouldn't have put up the tree when she has like tons of garland over everything.
Right.
That made me laugh.
I thought the same thing. I was like, so you took the time to decorate your windows, but you're not gonna put up the tree, or
yeah. And so we do have I thought a funny scene with Tyler with the stare down with the kid next door, and he pays him $50 for the wagon. Yes. This generation is different.
Yeah. And I also love Andrew Walker bringing home the wrong baby.
Oh,
yes.
That was the highlight of that made me laugh the hardest. And the way it was shot, I think Terry Ingram did a great job of like from the perspective of the baby. And you see the three of them and they're like, ah.
Yes. And that baby's hair, I could not get over it. It was too adorable. And it was so excellent given how bald Thomas was.
Yeah. And there was a lot of good banter in this movie. Like when he says children shouldn't be allowed in grocery stores. And he says, by children, you're referring to yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was really funny. And the idea that Paul Campbell would try to make cookies with the baby is outrageous. Like, there's no way that's happening. I mean, maybe if you found a way to set the baby down, but I don't even feel like it would necessarily be all that safe to have the baby on your stomach and be making cookies. And
yeah,
I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a great idea. But that was funny. And they get the baby's first ornament, which comes back later, which was very cute. And then like little lines, like they're three grown men, sort of. And Andrew Walker is getting some kind of like award at the fire station.
Yeah.
And then he leaves because they are trying to find the baby. And then Andrew Walker's character successfully makes cookies.
Yes.
Unlike Paul Campbell. And then there's also, you're talking about the anxiety on Paul Campbell's character, because this guy wants him to speak at a animal adoption event thing, because he's like an animal therapist person.
Right. Therapist.
Yeah.
And he can't do it. Like even in the end, he's like, I finally got up and I tried it, and he passed out in the middle.
Yeah.
Which I like. It was funny.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I mean, a lot of people are really afraid of public speaking, and so in my life, like I am a psychiatry resident, so I see people, and I've seen, especially like when people were kind of going back to work after being out. I saw so many people with social anxiety that were just like paralyzed, like having to go back into the office and like be around people again. Yeah. So I think a lot of people can relate to that character.
Yeah. I really loved that they didn't make it like like that his character was immediately able to overcome that anxiety.
Yeah.
Like,
even in the end, he didn't.
Right. Exactly. But that he tried, and there's bravery in trying. Like that's like the bravery is being willing to try.
Yeah.
And even if you don't succeed, you've tried, and there's like honor in that.
And he was willing to try again. Yeah. Because the worst that could happen was he got a little embarrassed from passing out. It only gets from here,
Right.
And I feel like I would almost more rather go to a therapist that showed he understood, that had that weakness on display. Yeah. That would be actually kind of appealing to me, if you're like, oh, he's going to get it. He's going to be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What did you think about Tyler and his quitting the job? I thought that was kind of an interesting element because on one hand, I could see his point of view because they were having these unrealistic expectations and he's getting frustrated. And but then he left all of the team in a bind. And so I could see Ali Liebert's perspective. And usually you don't have that kind of nuance when it comes to the epic quit, as I like to call it. But what do you think, Thaddeaus, of that?
So wasn't he fired / quit?
Yeah, / quit. He was fired. He could, I think, get unemployment because he was fired. But then he when he's leaving, he says, "Oh, I quit." And they were trying to get he was trying to get that Jerry Maguire moment, like who's coming with me or whatever. And
so I mean,
failed.
You're right that they never really show the perspective of other people when that person leaves the job. They usually leave and that's it. So to have someone from that job come, be part of the ongoing story and say like, oh, and it was kind of like showing that, he could have made more of an effort, and it was kind of part of his growth of becoming a little less selfish and trying to see things from other people's perspectives and not just think about how things affect him. And so it was nice seeing him kind of come to that realization as the story went on. But also, there also is a place for, understanding your own needs and sometimes having to put yourself first. So, and I think that was something that Andrew Walker's character kind of had to learn a little bit. But he was on the opposite end of that spectrum. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And so the mom has to leave to go help the aunt. And so she goes, and that's why she's kind of gone.
The old broken leg.
And and she's nervous about that, about having the boys have to take care of this baby. But she goes and because she has to help her sister, basically their aunt. And she gets stuck there because the pass is closed or whatever. And so she can't leave. And so they get this idea of trying to win this cruise. That's the win for the neighborhood contest.
Right.
In the neighborhood lights contest. And they're up against Matt Hamilton, like we said. And he was hilarious. That whole thing was very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it worked good. And I liked the line. So Tyler sees Allie she's with her niece at the skating rink, and he's there with the baby. And then after he says, she thinks I'm a loudmouth, self-centered with no regard for anyone but myself. And then Andrew Walker says, is this where we're supposed to disagree?
Yeah. That was a really great moment. I thought the brothers were really good at teasing each other, which I mean, I have obviously not a man and haven't I have a brother, but he didn't have any brothers. But I imagine that brothers, like, especially as you become adults, like that you tend to like kind of, rag on each other and tease each other. And I thought that they were really great at that, and especially good in that example. That's a great one.
Well, and all three have been friends for so long in the actors, in real life. And Tyler is Andrew Walker's wife's cousin. Yeah. So they actually have like a connection.
Small world. Well, I think We often talk about like chemistry in a romantic sense, like chemistry between the actors, but I thought these guys had great chemistry in terms of they felt like they really could be family. Like, you know, maybe they didn't look exactly alike, and some of them have features that are like really kind of predominant that it's like, oh, I can't believe it. None of the other brothers would have gotten that. But at the same time, they're just like, they melded so well together that it definitely felt like, oh yeah, these were guys who could have grown up together, and I definitely feel the chemistry between them.
Well, and some families are pretty diverse in appearance, even though they're the same family. Like my family, there's 6 of us, and we all look pretty different. And there's a big age gap between, like, my parents have kind of, we always joke that you burn the first batch, then try again, because there's about a 10-year gap in between the 2 sets of kids in my family.
With my family.
we would joke that because my 2 younger sisters both have blonde hair and I don't, and my sister just 2 years younger doesn't, and so the whole joke of the milkman's babies.
Yes.
But yeah, it was, I mean, our family is a pretty diverse look about all. But are you from a big family, Thaddeus?
So I'm the oldest of 4, and like you, there's 2 sets. There's me and my oldest younger brother, who's like a year younger than I am, and then there's like an 8-year gap, and then the 2 youngest ones.
So you know. That's funny. I think they did a good job. And the whole scene where they're in the elf costumes with even the baby and the elf, that was just like a gift to Hallmark fans.
When they were strolling up to Santa Claus, I like could not keep it together. I was drinking some hot cider and like it nearly came flying out. I was like, this is so good. It was really classic.
Yeah, it was very funny. And I'm like, you know, that's going to be all over Instagram, social media, everything for till we get 3 wise men and a little lady. You got to figure that's coming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they would, since it's a boy baby,
it's a boy,
they'd have to do, I don't know what the
3 wise men and a little lad.
Little lad. Yeah, I'm trying to think what would be the equivalent. I don't know. But I feel like that's gotta be in the works. Yeah. And so that was very funny. And then they decide that, you know, their mom never complains. Let's get the mom the Christmas she deserves, the cruise. And I did laugh too when Tyler brings out all those like swords and stuff.
The
medieval Christmas.
Yeah.
We were decorating for a house for Christmas, not reenacting the fall of Rome.
And I love it how the redhead, I can't remember her name, Fiona,
yeah. Well, that's her actor's name.
Okay. Oh, and she walked up and she just rolled with it. She's like, oh, I like your helmet. Like, and just kept going. And I was like, oh, she's a lot smoother than I'd be. I would like jaw on the floor. I would not handle that well.
She did a great job. She was very funny in this movie. And I hope they continue to use her. And I'd love her to get a lead. I don't think she's ever had one in a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah. And so I have to ask, if you were to pick your favorite casserole, what would you pick? She brings over the casserole.
Oh man.
So my aunt makes a really good string bean casserole.
Oh, okay. Classic with the onions on top.
A little bit, not a very. It's kind of cheesy. Got ham in it. It's very good, very good.
What would you pick, Liz, as your favorite casserole?
My mom has this recipe for like a chicken pot pie casserole. And so it's got chicken and peas and carrots and then kind of a, gravy situation. Oh man, it's so good. And like you put a biscuit with it and it's just perfect.
That sounds really good. Yeah. I think there's like this, kind of Mexican lasagna type of casserole with like the layers and the cream of soup. And that was really good. I can't eat stuff like that very much anymore because it's very salty, but tasty. But anyway.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
We have this sort of moment of conflict between them where Andrew Walker says, I show up for everyone. I do nothing for me. And so it's when they start to kind of realize that he seems like the most together, like he has his life together. And so it kind of makes sense that people would just sort of rely on him without realizing it. Yeah. And he's trying to build this house and he's not getting a lot of support on that. And so that's part of it too. And then they find, I didn't really understand this whole thing so he has a rash, but the problem is when they go to the hospital, they say, oh, he doesn't have any problems. He just needed a diaper change and he has a tooth. What does that have to do with a rash? Like
teething or something?
That doesn't cause a rash though.
I think I've heard, but maybe don't quote me on this, that sometimes when babies are teething, they'll have other things that go along with that, including a rash.
Maybe? Oh, really? I've never heard that before.
I've never heard that either.
Yeah. I know, but it was very funny.
Having personal experience with it.
With Kimberly Susted, and she's like, you can't write this stuff, which was very cute.
Her cameo was fantastic.
Yeah,
I did not expect to see her in this. And so when she showed up, I just was delighted.
Yeah, it was really funny. And you were kind of proud of the boys by the end that, they figured it out. They got the bottles working. They had a system down. It was
yes.
And I have to say, going back to the contest, I love that they lost the
yeah.
Because you're so used to people winning in these stores, and they had a great thing to have it. They were trying to do it for their mother, but still they still lost. Plus, I loved Matt Hamilton getting to glow.
Oh, it was so funny. Yeah, I mean, in a way, he kind of stole the movie. Like he was one of the funniest parts. For sure.
He was great. And I loved that they sort of reconciled enough to invite him over for Christmas next year. Like, I was like, that's super fun.
Over for, what was it there? The keg of eggnog?
Okay. Yeah. Well, and I laughed at this whole nativity thing because you don't normally see nativity sets on Hallmark Channel movies. Right. It's pretty rare. Maybe on Movies and Mysteries on the Miracles Christmas you might. But there was this. It was funny because they had the three kings, and Mary and the baby, and
like Joseph. Joseph, didn't they say Joseph was out working or something?
Yeah, no, Joseph
getting diapers or something. Yeah.
I thought that was really funny. And then that's when the mom comes back. And
he did the Lion King with the baby.
Oh yeah. Oh right. Although I spent the whole time going, put a hat on that poor baby's head. It looked.
It's true. But I forget where this was supposedly taking place. I don't remember, but anyway.
Yeah.
Probably Colorado. Seems like most of the movies take place in Colorado now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think it was Colorado. I think you're right. But they have this like super cute group hug and there's this Christmas morning and you aren't fighting. And that's when we find out that Paul Campbell did the talk at the animal shelter and they passed out midway through. And he says, I find myself completely enraptured by you, which was super cute.
Yes.
Yeah. Very cute. And then we get the Tyler Hines apologizing to Allie, asking for her back. And then you see Andrew Walker bringing the ornament to the mom. And then we get and he says, you're not alone. Don't feel alone. And so that was very sweet.
Yes.
Heartwarming.
Yeah.
And then the year later, they have they're at Andrew Walker's house, the housewarming party. And we didn't really talk about the Nutcracker dance, which was hilarious. I absolutely loved it.
So funny.
Yeah. Both times when they did it, it was so good.
Yes.
Oh.
I put on Twitter, I was like, thank you to whoever approved this.
Yes.
You're my favorite person.
It sort of reminded me, like, in part of like the Friends dance with Monica and Ross. I don't know if you guys remember, but they had a dance that they did at like a New Year's Eve thing. And I was like, this was so much better and so much funnier. Yeah. It was really top notch.
It was great.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this. I think it personally lived up to the hype. I kind of wish I had given, and maybe I'll take this opportunity to retrospectively give Ghosts of Christmas Always a perfect score, because I give it a 4.75. I was hedging. I absolutely loved that movie. I thought it was great.
Now that you've seen some more, you can retro.
Yeah.
Because I do think that's the best still of the year. It's my favorite. But this would be my second favorite. And so for Hallmark. And so I'm going to give it a perfect score. It was really, I mean, I could nitpick little things like the premise or whatever, but as far as overall entertainment, and will it stay on my DVR, and will I continue to watch it over and over again? And do I want a sequel? Yes. So it was very good. What would you give it, Thaddeus?
I'll give it 4.5. You know, so like I said, I really enjoyed it. They had, like I said, they had a hill to climb with that premise, but they made it work. I mean, I did think like the end was a little rushed, but you know, but the vast majority, if you take out like the little opening sequence and the ending, the meat of it was really good. So I'm going to give it 4.5.
Yes.
What about you, Liz?
Yeah, I wrote down 4.5 as well. I just, same as Thaddeus, like I really, really enjoyed it. I laughed a lot, which is kind of unusual for me for Hallmark movies. Like they'll get a chuckle, but these were like laugh out loud moments. And that was really fun for me. But yeah, I mean, I have a couple nitpicky things, but by and large, like absolutely, I would rewatch this. I totally so much enjoyed it. And I loved all three of the main actors. I thought they did fantastic work. So yeah, 4.5 for me.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Well, let's switch gears over to movies and mysteries, and we're talking long lost Christmas. And we're actually going to be talking about this even more because this is our November reading wrap up book, me and Bree. So we're gonna be talking about the book coming up probably that first week of December sometime. Cool. Once I have time to actually finish reading it. I've been so busy.
Oh, you've been busy.
Yeah, I've been very, very busy. But this was also on the 19th, and it stars Taylor Cole and Benjamin Ayres and director Michael Robinson, who's done tons of these movies. I mean, we really got two pros with Terry Ingram and Michael Robinson this week.
Mhm.
But it's Haley is an interior designer who plans to surprise her recently widowed mother, Patricia, with the perfect holiday present, the extended family she knows her mom yearns for. So basically what they're trying to say is that she finds out that her mother had a brother that they got separated basically in the foster system. The brother was 7 years older, and so this is news to Haley. She doesn't know about this, and so she sort of starts investigating it, and she ends up going to the place where they are living, and trying to learn about this brother. But overall, Thaddeus, what do you think about this one?
So I love the long lost family trope. It's probably one of my favorites. I think probably because in my spare time, I'm like an amateur genealogist. So I love investigating those things. And, I thought that Taylor Cole actually did a pretty good job with this character. I understood like her motivations for going to find her uncle. I liked her and Benjamin Ayers together, but I was prepared for, that she wasn't going to say anything to the uncle for pretty much until the end of the movie, which makes no sense to me. And I was like, okay, I'm prepared for this, but it was still kind of annoying. But I still, overall enjoyed the movie. But that was kind of silly to me. And I was just like, okay, why?
What did you think, Liz?
So this movie was a little bit of a miss for me, but I think it mostly because I was stupefied by her reaction to the charity fundraiser at the end when she realizes who the money is being raised for. I could not figure out why she responded as she did, basically bursting into tears and storming away. Like, she seemed so angry about that when just 30-45 minutes earlier, when the uncle character had told her that he didn't have any siblings, then she bursted into tears at the meteor shower, and she goes to Benjamin's character and is like, oh, I'm just so sad, I need to go. And I'm like, okay, you're disappointed that he's not your uncle when you don't think he's your uncle. When you discover that he is your uncle, you're mad. I just couldn't.
I think the reason she was mad is because I think she assumed that he had cut ties with this center or whatever, this adoption place. And so when she found out that he was doing this for I think it was Greenbrier or someplace like that.
Braithwaite.
Braithwaite.
Yeah.
When that he was still involved. And so her thought was, how could you leave her there alone when you still have this, relationship with this place? And he hadn't cut off all ties, which is, I think, is what she had assumed. But yeah, it was definitely a strong reaction.
And I also think it was that if he was doing all of, helping out this place, but then he's going to say he didn't have a sister and, has not really, as far as she knew, made no attempts to find his sister and get involved with her in her life.
Yeah.
That, she was obviously upset about that, felt like he had just kind of discarded her mother, but was still helping these other people that he didn't know. So I kind of sort of, but yeah, it did kind of throw me a little bit that she would have that.
It was a stretch for me.
Yeah. Well, and his claim is that he didn't, that he was older at that point, and he didn't want their relationship to jeopardize her adoption, that he found out that she had been adopted, and he didn't want there to be any kind of conflict. But it seems like that it would be hard to believe that, well, first of all, that once she's grown up, why wouldn't you reach out?
Right.
But I guess he was like, oh, I was in the military, enlisted or something like that.
Yeah. And also the thing is, I could understand if, him, once he had aged out of the system, he had to kind of distance himself so that she would get adopted. But then after she got adopted, I mean, they can't just be like, oh, we don't want you anymore. So he could have gone back and visited her and kept a relationship with her after she'd already,
or at least written her or something.
Write her a letter. Yeah. Let her know, hey, I'm in the military. I'm, far away. I can't come see you, But
I was actually like willing to kind of go along with all of that, even though I agree with you. I feel like the romance, even though I actually thought they had pretty good chemistry, it seemed so rushed. And like, I mean, they were literally basically a couple within like 30 minutes of meeting each other.
Yes. I wrote down, they had this quote where he says, I like you a lot. And she says, I like you a lot. And I was like, I think this has been 2 days.
Yeah.
And I just was like, you literally only known this person existed in this world for 2 days. Yeah. And now I like you a lot. Basically, like, I'm ready to see where this can go. And I'm like, ooh, like there's something to be said for love at first sight, but there's something else to be said for.
I mean, her major, as far as he's concerned, it seems like her major character attribute was destroying stuff and being like being a klutz, like a vague klutz. Yeah. But I was also kind of willing to forgive that because I did think that they had pretty good chemistry. And so it's like, well, okay, fine. And we also have furniture maker Brianna, who has she's Taylor's character is a Haley. Haley is a interior designer, and at the beginning of the movie, she gets the chance to be in this showcase. And it was kind of funny that all they end up giving her is a hallway. And they're like, they're talking about furniture and stuff. And I'm like, what furniture in a hallway? Like, furniture in a hallway.
Well, and was it just me? Like, I didn't even see, like, they didn't show us the room. They really didn't.
The hallway.
They like gave us like the briefest little glimpse of it when she was doing a live stream. And I was like, wait, this has all been about Brianna's furniture, about everything. That was a letdown for me. I was like, I want to see the room.
Yes. I mean, but I thought the girl was cute who played Brianna.
Yes.
And you could see Haley's awkwardness of like, oh my gosh, this is my sister. Or my cousin. This is, oh my gosh, this is my cousin. Like, kind of wild, and that was fun.
Yeah. And
I also liked so she brings in cookies. And because she kind of like destroys his cookies, and he's like, are you determined to destroy everything in the office? And then we get this scene with Gordon and Benjamin Ayres' character. And he says, love isn't easy, but it's worth it. And again, like already going to love, like they literally just met this woman. But I did think it was funny when he says, she brought you cookies. In my day, that was a date. That's a good line.
That was cute.
Yeah.
That was cute.
And I did like Brianna and Gordon's kind of confrontation scene after when Brianna learns about, the secret sister and everything. That actually made a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But and was more true to like more appropriate to the situation. But
Yeah, and I thought the stargazing date was very cozy. It was very fun. It's hard to think of what to do that's new in these Christmas movies. And that was pretty. I mean, we've seen the Northern Lights, so they didn't give us that. But but just like regular stargazing is kind of new. It was fun.
Yeah.
And then they kind of modernized the cabin so that they can have the fundraiser there, I guess. So they show it to Gordon, and then that's when they dance at the fundraiser. So that was kind of nice. And then that's when she finds out, and she gets very upset. She says, you just left her. And I did think it was a good point that she made, where that you kept family from me, you chose. Oh, this is Brianna who says this. She says, you kept family from me, you chose for me too. And I think that was a good point, that he chose for a lot of people. He chose for Patricia. He chose for the whole family. He decided that he was never going to make any kind of introduction or move.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's a pretty unlikable character for a Hallmark movie, I feel like. Gordon. I mean, he had his cute things, but for him to do something like that is pretty big, I feel like. Pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like he had a few smaller redeemable moments, like because he was so close off, and it was so awkward when Haley's like asking him questions, like trying to like dig into his past, and he's like, no, like I don't want to answer any of these questions, like basically like, you know, directing the conversation elsewhere or leaving. But like at the end, when Benjamin Aris's character shows him the cabin and Benjamin is all nervous, like, is he gonna like my design kind of thing? But like the way his eyes lit up and the way that like Gordon was like so embracing of that was really sweet, I thought. And like was so like this thing that Benjamin's character had worried about, just he didn't need to, because really Gordon viewed him as a son and viewed him as a family member, but also as like a smart businessman and a really good, you know, builder. So
yeah, that's true. Their relationship did go a long way to kind of softening him, and they had some gratuitous Campbell Soup product placement in this movie. They've been doing a lot of that this season. A lot of Campbell Soup. They put up the money. Campbell Soup, and I just always am blown away by that. That I mean, they must see some return on their investment in order to keep doing it year after year after year. They must feel like it's worth it. And I just can't imagine anybody being like, oh, look, they're using Campbell Soup, I'm gonna go buy it. Must be, I guess, subliminal. Maybe you're like, ooh, I'm gonna go pick up some Campbell Soup because I see, you know, inside in your head you think, oh, I saw it on the Hallmark movie, but it's, I don't know, it's just so funny. I mean, and then they also had just the unbelievable scene in Golden Dragon where they're making Chex Mix. That's just like, wow. But
the product placement is one of my favorite things. It makes me laugh every time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Even in Three Wise Men, at one point, Paul Campbell's character opened the fridge door and he goes to get some, I think it was Paul, maybe it was Andrew. Anyways, goes to get some orange
Daisy
juice, and there's a Daisy sour cream like right there. I was like, whoa! I was like, can't miss that.
Yes, yeah, that I love it.
Yeah, that was really funny. I didn't understand, and maybe I just missed it. Maybe I phased out. I didn't understand the importance of her gift. She gives him that railway car. What was that?
Oh, that was the caboose. Because he had, when they were decorating the cabin, he like pulls out this train set and he says he has all of the train cars from when he was a kid, except he doesn't have the caboose. And then they talk about how the caboose is like, it's like in movies and books and everything. It's the place where like you have, like, it's really important. You say your goodbyes, you have reunions, you like, it's like a big romantic thing. And so when she gives it to him, and then it sort of is like his like, oh, this is going to be their reunion. This is their like opportunity to come back together.
I must have accidentally fast forwarded through that or something. I must have missed that because I didn't remember. I was like, what? Why is she giving him this?
I actually thought this movie did a super great job of reutilizing like things throughout. Like, so there's this old quote in writing, and I cannot remember who said it, but it was like some playwright said that in the first, if you put a gun on the mantle in the first scene or the first act, it has to go off in act 3. Like you can't just put something in there for it just to be willy-nilly and not to make some sort of impact on the story. And so I felt like this movie did a really great job, like with the candy cane Christmas cookies, how they kept showing up time and again. And then towards the end, when Brianna was making the Christmas cane cookies, and then she and Haley's like had the same quote about them, something about, and then you can hang it on your finger. And I was like, how did Haley not get it in that moment? Like, this is clearly her mom's brother. But they did that with the candy canes. They did that with the caboose train car. Like, I just thought that they did a really nice job of like bringing these things back so that they weren't just sort of filler. They had a true part in the plot.
Yeah, that's true. You can tell it was based on a novel, I think, because there's that kind of attention to detail.
Yeah.
And so they end up reuniting, Gordon and Patricia, and he gives his kind of explanation, and they decide to forgive each other. And it turns out they both wrote cards to each other. And so they exchanged those, and that was very sweet. And then we also get a kiss from between Haley and Benjamin's character, and that, that was nice. So overall, I thought this was a pleasant enough little Hallmark movie. I'd give it 3 crowns. What about you, Thaddeus?
I'll give it 3.25. Yeah, it was nice. It was I enjoyed it despite there being some silly contrivances in there, but I thought that the performances were overall pretty good, and at least in the beginning, I was kind of invested in the characters, so that goes a long way for me.
Yeah. What about you, Liz? What would you give it?
I gave it a 2.5 crowns. Yeah, I thought that it was nice. It was sweet. If it was on in the background, I would rewatch it again, but it probably is not one that I would seek out to rewatch. Mostly because I felt like, again, like I just could not understand her response and her reaction, how she went from like being so upset that he wasn't her, believing he wasn't her uncle, to just flying off the handle like that. Like I'm sure in the book that's more like unpacked, but this felt like such a rushed response that it just didn't track with me. But I liked the characters. I thought the actors did a good job with the material that they had, and I thought there were some really cute scenes, like when they go to the Christmas fair, the Christmas market, and they're trying on hats. Like that was cute, and I thought that there was enough chemistry between them that. But again, like that romance was super rushed. And I was like, wait, we're 2 days in and we're in love? I'm confused. So
I was like, may I be so cursed?
Yeah, right. Okay, that's it. We're all going to Silver Creek or wherever this one took place.
Yes. Yeah. Well, let us know if you're listening what you think of both of these movies. We'd love to hear in the comments section or on Twitter what your thoughts are. And Thaddeus, where can people find you?
You should join the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And join the Patreon. It's a lot of fun. And we have watch alongs. Actually just finalized the December watch along for just today I did. So it's going to be fun. And we have all different kinds of fun perks for you. So please check it out. And Liz, how can people find you?
Yeah, I'm online everywhere at Liz Johnson Books. You can find my website is www.lizjohnsonbooks.com, and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Liz Johnson Books.
Oh, great. And well, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah. If I can just do a shameless plug, Hallmarkies right now has a cool coupon with bakerbookhouse.com through December. Hang on, I wrote this down. December 12th. Through December 12th, you can get my book, The Last Way Home, for 40% off at bakerbookhouse.com with the code Hallmarkies40. So just gonna leave that.
Please. There's some really good books in that you can get. And I mean, I'm definitely, we put in an order. You all should. And we're so grateful for their support of the podcast. So please take a look at that. All that information will be in the description. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. It helps us so much and help people to find the podcast. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 5K. We're just so close. So please subscribe. We would very much appreciate it. And check out the Patreon and the merch store. We can get tons of festive designs at the merch store, and it's a lot of fun. And we so much appreciate all of your support. And thanks so much to both of you for coming on. And we wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Bye.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Yay.